I used to tell my stylist to just trim it for almost a decade, and I didn't realize that single lazy sentence was the reason I looked tired in every photo. There's a small handful of haircuts that genuinely soften your face and take years off, and an almost identical looking handful that do the exact opposite. And most women over 60 can't tell the difference until someone points it out. In this video, I'm walking you through 3 cuts that make you look 10 years younger, and 3 that quietly age you, so you know exactly which words to say in the chair. I researched the biggest style and beauty mistakes women over 60 make, and the fixes that actually work so you get real results instead of guesswork. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, because I cover this every single week. Part 1. The 2 cuts everyone's switching to. Here's something your stylist probably knows but has never said out loud. The haircut that made you look sophisticated at 45 is very likely the exact same haircut that's making you look tired at 65. Hair thins, the face softens, and gravity does what gravity does. And a cut that once read as polished now just reads as flat. If you're standing in front of the mirror lately feeling like something's off but you can't name it, this is almost always why. It isn't your face changing for the worse. It's your haircut refusing to change with it. The first cut that turns this around completely is a soft, rounded lob, cut to sit right at the collarbone with movement built into the ends instead of a blunt line. The reason this specific length works so well after 60 is about jawline math, not fashion. A blunt cut that ends exactly at the jaw draws a hard horizontal line right where your face is softest. And it makes the jaw look wider and heavier than it actually is. A lob that falls an inch or 2 below the jaw, with the ends softly layered rather than chopped straight across, does the opposite. It creates a gentle diagonal frame that pulls the eye downward and past the jawline instead of stopping right at it. Tell your stylist exactly this. I want a collarbone-length lob with soft layered ends, not a blunt line, and I want face-framing pieces left slightly longer at the front. That phrasing matters because lob alone can mean 5 different things to 5 different stylists, and you want to walk out with the version that actually works for your face shape, not whatever version they default to. Here's the part that actually surprises most women when they hear it. This cut doesn't just look better in still photos, it moves differently. Blunt, heavy ends sit stiff against the neck and barely respond to a head turn. Layered lob ends swing and settle back into place, and that small bit of natural movement is what reads as youthful to the eye before anyone even registers the haircut itself. Diane, a woman who left a comment on one of my earlier videos, told me she'd worn the same shoulder-length blunt cut for 11 years because it felt safe. And the first time she tried the softer lob, her own daughter asked if she'd had something done to her face. Nothing had changed except the ends of her hair. Before, a blunt, heavy shoulder-length cut with a hard horizontal line at the jaw. After, a collarbone-length lob with soft, layered ends that move naturally and frame the face on a gentle diagonal. The second cut on the younger list is a modern shag with a soft curtain fringe. And this one works through volume rather than length. As hair thins with age, most women unconsciously compensate by growing it longer, thinking length hides thinness. It's the opposite. Long, thin hair has nowhere to build any lift, so it lies flat against the scalp and actually draws more attention to the thinness, not less. A shag cut into shorter, textured layers throughout the crown gives each individual section room to lift and separate, which reads as fuller hair even when the actual density hasn't changed at all. The curtain fringe piece matters just as much as the layering. Ask for face-framing pieces that start above the brow and sweep back at an angle, not a blunt straight-across fringe. A straight-across fringe on a mature face tends to shorten and flatten the whole upper face. Pieces that sweep back at an angle do the opposite. They soften the forehead, lift the eyes visually, and blend into the rest of the layers instead of sitting like a separate helmet on top. Rosalind, another woman I heard from after posting about shag cuts, told me she'd avoided them for years because she associated the word shag with her wild 20s and figured it wasn't age-appropriate anymore. What she didn't realize is that a shag cut for a mature woman looks nothing like the 70s version. It's softer, the layers are more blended, and the fringe is longer and more swept than the choppy versions people picture. Once she saw it cut correctly, with proper layering density and a swept fringe rather than a blunt one, she said it was the first haircut in years that people actually complimented unprompted, rather than just accepting. So here's where we stand. a collarbone lob with soft layered ends beats a blunt heavy cut every time after 60, because movement reads as youth. And a modern shag with a swept curtain fringe beats long, flat, thinning hair, because volume and lift do more for your face than length ever will. Both of these work with the changes your hair and face are actually going through instead of fighting them. But knowing what to ask for is only half the equation, because there are 3 specific cuts that seem completely reasonable, that women choose thinking they're playing it safe, and that are quietly adding years to how old they look. One of them is sitting in almost every over 60 salon lookbook right now, and it might be the exact cut you're already wearing. Part 2. The safe cut that's secretly aging you. There's one haircut that shows up in almost every Easy Hairstyles for Older Women article on the internet, and I need you to hear this clearly. It is quietly one of the most aging choices you can make after 60. It's the short, uniform, all one-length bob, cropped close to the head with no layering and no texture, usually styled in a stiff, rounded shape that doesn't move at all. Women choose it because it looks tidy, because it looks low maintenance, and because it's the cut every hairdresser seems to reach for the moment a client says the word practical. And that's exactly the problem. A uniform, unlayered bob sits like a solid helmet around the head, and a solid, immovable shape next to an aging face does something specific and unflattering. It makes the face look smaller and more delicate by comparison, which sounds like a compliment until you realize smaller and more delicate next to a stiff, heavy shape actually reads as sunken and drawn, not youthful. There's no transition between the hair and the face, no soft edge, nothing for the eye to settle on gently. It's a hard border, and hard borders age a face fast. The fix isn't abandoning short hair. Short hair can look phenomenal after 60. The fix is asking for texture inside the shape instead of a flat, solid block. Tell your stylist, I want the same length, but with point cut layers through the ends and some texture at the crown, not a solid, blunt shape. Point cutting is a specific technique where the stylist cuts up into the ends at an angle rather than straight across, which breaks up that heavy solid line and lets individual pieces separate slightly. It's a small technical difference, but it's the entire reason 2 bobs of the exact same length can look decades apart in how old they read. Colette, a longtime commenter on this channel, told me she'd worn what she called her sensible bob for almost 15 years, convinced it was the safest, most age-appropriate option available to her. When she finally asked her stylist for point cut layers instead of the usual blunt trim, keeping the length almost identical, she said the change was so significant that a neighbor she'd known for years didn't recognize her from behind at the mailbox. The length barely moved. The technique changed everything. There's a second detail hiding inside this same mistake, and it's the crown. A uniform bob is almost always cut with the same amount of weight all the way around, including directly at the crown, which means there's no lift at the root. Flat roots at the crown are one of the fastest ways to age the whole head, because that's the area most visible from every angle, including the angle other people see when you're not looking directly at them. Ask specifically for shorter, disconnected layers at the crown to build root lift, separate from the request for point cut ends. These are 2 different techniques solving 2 different problems, and naming them separately means your stylist actually addresses both instead of assuming one fixes the other. Here's the honest truth about why this cut is so common and so hard to move away from. It photographs fine in a still image, especially straight on under good lighting, which is exactly the kind of photo that ends up in a magazine spread of flattering cuts after 60. But real life isn't a still photo under studio lighting. Real life is walking through a doorway, turning to talk to a friend, catching your reflection in a shop window at an angle you didn't choose. A flat, solid bob only ever looks its best in that one controlled angle, and looks noticeably heavier and older in every other angle, which is most of your actual day. Before, a flat, uniform, unlayered bob with no crown lift and a solid heavy line at the ends. After, the same length with point-cut layered ends and disconnected crown layers for visible lift and movement. So if you've been told your whole life that short and simple is the safe, foolproof choice after 60, I want you to walk away from this part with a more specific version of that idea. Short can absolutely be simple to maintain without being flat, stiff, and solid. The words point cut and disconnected crown layers are what separate a bob that ages you from a bob that doesn't. And now you have the exact language to ask for. Next, I want to show you the second cut on my younger list, and this one might be the most surprising fix in this entire video, because it's not about a haircut you're avoiding. It's about a color and cut combination that most women assume they've outgrown. Part 3. The pixie you were told to avoid, and the fringe nobody talks about. A lot of women write off the pixie cut the moment they turn 60, and I understand exactly why. Somewhere along the way, pixie became shorthand for something severe, something that reads as giving up on softness entirely, and nobody wants to walk into a salon and come out looking harder instead of younger. But here's the surprising part almost nobody tells you. A properly textured pixie is one of the single most age-reversing cuts that exists, and the version most women picture in their heads when they say no to it isn't the version that actually gets requested by women who love how they look in theirs. The mistake isn't the pixie itself. The mistake is a specific version of it, the one cut close and uniform all over with almost no length variation, no soft pieces anywhere, and hard, defined edges around the ears and neckline. That version can absolutely look severe on a mature face, because it removes every soft transition the same way the flat bob does, just in a shorter package. It's not that short hair ages you. It's that a uniform, edge-heavy shape does at any length. The version that actually takes years off is what stylists call a textured, longer pixie, where the top stays long enough to have real movement, usually 2 to 4 inches, while the sides taper more gradually instead of cutting to a hard line. Tell your stylist, I want a longer, textured pixie with soft, choppy pieces on top, and a gradual taper at the sides, not a close, uniform crop. That single sentence changes everything about the outcome, because it tells your stylist you want softness built into a short cut, rather than assuming short automatically means severe. The reason this specific version works so well after 60 comes down to something simple. Longer, textured pieces on top can be styled forward, swept to one side, or pushed up for volume, which means the shape actually changes slightly day to day depending on how you style it. A uniform, close-cropped pixie only has one shape, ever, and a single unchanging shape next to a mature face reads as rigid. Movement and variability, even small amounts of it, are what your eye reads as alive and youthful. A woman named Marguerite reached out after one of my earlier videos and told me she'd wanted short hair for 3 years, but kept talking herself out of it, terrified it would read as trying too hard to be edgy at her age. When she finally asked specifically for the longer, textured version with a soft taper, she said the compliments she got weren't about the haircut itself, they were about her face, people telling her she looked well-rested, lighter, brighter. Nobody mentioned the pixie directly, because a good textured pixie doesn't announce itself as a haircut choice. It just makes the face in front of it look better. Before, a uniform, closely cropped pixie with hard edges and no length variation. After, a longer, textured pixie with soft choppy pieces on top and a gradual taper at the sides. Now for the third cut on the younger side. And this one is less about length and more about a single detail most women overlook entirely. The curtain fringe, worn on longer layered hair rather than short hair. A curtain fringe is parted down the center and swept to both sides, framing the face on either side rather than sitting across the forehead. The reason this particular fringe style works so well after 60 is about symmetry and softness working together. 2 soft pieces framing both sides of the face draw attention evenly to the eyes, rather than creating one hard line across the forehead the way a blunt fringe does. Ask your stylist for a soft curtain fringe, parted at the center, with pieces long enough to tuck behind the ears if I want to blend it into the rest of my layers. That last detail, blending it into the layers rather than cutting it as a separate section, is what keeps it from looking like an obvious fringe at all. It should look like your hair simply grows that way. So here's where the younger list lands fully. A collarbone lob beats a blunt cut. A textured shag with a swept fringe beats flat, thinning length. A longer, textured pixie beats a close, uniform crop. And a soft, center-parted curtain fringe beats a hard, blunt one, every time. Every single one of these works by adding movement and softness where a mature face needs it most. But I promised you 3 cuts to avoid, and we've only covered one so far in detail. The other 2 are subtler than the flat bob, and one of them is a color and cut combination that a shocking number of women over 60 are currently wearing without realizing it's working against them, not for them. Part 4. The two mistakes hiding in plain sight. The second cut to avoid isn't really about the cut at all. It's about length left unmanaged, and it's the single most common mistake I see in comment sections from women over 60. It's mid-back or waist-length hair, worn completely straight, with no layering whatsoever, kept purely because it's been that length for decades and changing it feels like losing a part of yourself. I want to be gentle here because I understand the emotional weight long hair can carry. But I also want to be honest with you, because that's what actually helps. Hair naturally loses density as we age, and long, straight, unlayered hair has the least amount of surface area doing any visual work. All that length just hangs, pulled straight down by its own weight. And the longer and straighter it is, the more it drags the whole face downward with it visually. It's not that long hair is inherently wrong. It's that long hair without any internal shaping works against gravity in exactly the way you don't want after 60. You do not have to cut it short to fix this. Say exactly this to your stylist. I want to keep the length, but I want long layers cut throughout, starting around chin height, to build shape and movement without losing overall length. Long layering is different from a shag or a lob. It keeps the silhouette long while removing the dead, heavy weight in the middle section, which lets the hair actually move when you turn your head instead of swinging as one solid sheet. Beatrice, a woman who commented on one of my earliest videos, told me she'd kept her hair at waist length since her 30s and was terrified layering would make it look chopped up or uneven. What she found instead was that her hair, for the first time in years, had visible movement when she walked, and she said her hairdresser pointed out that the layering also meant less visible thinning at the ends, because thin straight ends on long hair show every gap, while layered ends blend and hide that same thinning naturally. Before, mid-back length hair, completely straight, with no layering and heavy, flat weight pulling the whole look downward. After, the same length with long layers starting near chin height, adding movement and shape without sacrificing length. The third and final cut to avoid is a very specific one-length, chin grazing bob, cut with zero layering and worn with a heavy blunt, straight across fringe that hits right above the brow. This particular combination is common because it's often marketed as bold and modern, and on a younger face, it can look striking. On a mature face, the geometry works against you in two places at once instead of one. The blunt bob creates that same hard border problem we already talked about, and the heavy straight fringe adds a second hard horizontal line directly above the eyes, which shortens the entire upper face and can make the eyes look smaller and more tired rather than brighter. The fix here uses two of the exact techniques we've already covered, combined. Ask for a lightly layered version of this bob, with a soft swept fringe instead of a blunt one, angled back off the forehead. You're not changing the overall length or the general idea of the style. You're removing the two hard lines that were working against your face and replacing them with the same soft, angled framing that made the curtain fringe and the layered lob work so well earlier in this video. So here's your complete list, all 6, side by side in your head. Avoid the flat, uniform bob with no crown lift. Avoid long, straight, unlayered hair that drags everything downward. Avoid the blunt chin bob paired with a heavy straight fringe. Choose instead the collarbone lob with soft layered ends, the textured shag or pixie with movement built in, and any fringe that's swept and angled rather than cut straight across. Every single fix in this video comes down to the same underlying principle. Soft angled, moving lines make a mature face look lighter, and hard, flat, straight lines make it look heavier, every single time, regardless of length. You now know exactly what separates a haircut that ages you from one that takes years off, and it isn't about length or even boldness, it's about soft lines versus hard ones. And you have the exact words to ask for the soft version every time you sit in that chair. That's not a small thing to walk away with. Which of these 6 surprised you the most, the pixie, the pace of the shag, or the fringe detail? Tell me in the comments, I read every one. Next week I'm covering the biggest color mistakes women over 60 make that quietly age them faster than any haircut ever could, so you won't want to miss it. Like this video, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path, and I'll see you in the next one.